I've been so curious about this whole world of dermal fillers lately. Especially in a place like LA, it seems like everyone there has like perfectly smooth skin and those sculpted features.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how LA has become like the place for all these aesthetic treatments. And you're right, dermal fillers are a huge part of that. I mean, you can't deny it. The focus on how you look is, well, it's kind of amplified in LA,
Yeah.
with the media and the entertainment industry and all that.
So it's more than just Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are some very specific reasons why dermal fillers, I mean, those in particular, have blown up in LA. Like, for one thing, it attracts the best of the best, the top aesthetic professionals. So, you've got access to some of the leading clinics and med spas in the entire country.
Okay, so the expertise is there, but are we just talking like your typical Botox and fillers, or is there something more to it?
It's definitely evolved. LA clinics, they really hone in on customized solutions.
Yeah.
It's about considering individual needs and goals, not just offering the same thing to everyone.
Interesting. So it's a tailored experience. But before we go too far, let's back up a bit. Just for anyone who's not totally familiar, what exactly are dermal fillers?
So in the simplest terms, they're basically injectables, right? And they add volume, smooth out those wrinkles, and enhance contours. It's kind of like a non-surgical way to refresh your look. The most common ingredient is hyaluronic acid. You might recognize that from skincare stuff. But there are also fillers made from calcium hydroxylapatite or even polylactic acid.
So it's like a lunchtime tune-up for your face. Less downtime than, going under the knife.
Exactly. And that's a huge part of why they're so popular. People are busy, right? They want results, but they don't want to put their whole life on hold for it.
Makes total sense. So we've got the demand, we've got the experts, and we've got this emphasis on personalized treatments. I'm starting to see why LA is like the leader of the pack here. But let's get into the specifics. What kinds of dermal fillers are we actually talking about?
Okay, so LA offers a really diverse range of FDA-approved fillers, and each one is designed for a specific purpose. So you've got your hyaluronic acid fillers. Those are probably the most well-known. Great for lips, cheeks, those under-eye hollows, even hands. And generally, they're more affordable, starting around, I'd say, $500 per syringe in LA.
I've definitely heard about those hyaluronic acid fillers for, what is it, the tear troughs?
Yeah, exactly. That's that area under your eyes that can make you look tired. Hyaluronic acid fillers can really brighten things up there. But keep in mind, most treatments need 1 to 3 syringes per session, depending on the area and how dramatic of a result you're going for.
So the cost can really add up.
It can. And then there's calcium hydroxylapatite fillers, like RID-S, often used for deeper wrinkles and jawline contouring. Those run a bit higher, maybe $600 to $1,000 per syringe.
I guess chiseled jawlines are the new six-pack abs, huh?
You could say that.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing a lot more people interested in jawline contouring these days.
So from a quick plump to something more long-term, LA seems to have it all. What about for those who want really long-lasting results?
Well, for longevity, there's polylactic acid, also known as Sculptra. Now, this one's interesting. It actually stimulates your body's own collagen production, so it's not just about instant volume. You're looking at around $700 to $1,500 per syringe for Sculptra. But it's more about improving your skin's structure over time.
So it's like giving your skin's natural scaffolding a boost.
Exactly. And then on the even more permanent side, there's polymethyl methacrylate, often used for those really deep folds and acne scars. That one's more specialized and can cost $1,000 to $1,500 per syringe, but the results are meant to last much longer.
Wow, so there's a whole spectrum of choices. But it's not just about the type of filler, right? There are all kinds of areas you can treat with these. It's not just lip injections anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it like this. Dermal fillers can enhance almost any area of the face, and even some parts of the body. Lips are still popular, adding volume and definition. Cheeks are another common one, restoring that youthful fullness. And we've talked about under-eye hollows.
Right, the tear troughs. What other areas are people focusing on?
Well, those smile lines around the mouth, nasolabial folds, those can be softened with fillers. And as we mentioned, jawline and chin augmentation are getting super popular, creating a more sculpted look.
It's amazing how versatile these treatments have become.
It really is. You can even use fillers to rejuvenate the appearance of your hands. They can restore volume for a more youthful look.
Sounds like there's a filler for just about everything these days. But I'm sure our listeners thinking, okay, this is great, but how much is this going to cost me? Let's talk money.
It's a valid question. And of course, the price of beauty, it can vary. In LA, you're looking at costs that depend on the filler type, the injector's expertise, and even where the clinic is located.
So it's not just a set price tag.
Right. But we can break it down further. We've already touched on the cost per syringe for each type.
Right, and we know most treatments need multiple syringes, so how do we even factor in all these variables?
Well, next, let's discuss how long these results last, and then we can get into how to find the right injector for you.
Sounds good to me. Let's keep diving in.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So before the break, we were talking about how the cost of these fillers can really add up.
Yeah, we were breaking it all down, like the cost per syringe and how many syringes most treatments need. It gets a little confusing, trying to figure out what it'll actually cost.
It definitely can.
Fine.
But before we get too deep into the financial stuff, how much it'll cost you, I think it's important to understand how long these results last. Are we talking about a quick fix here or something more long-term?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, spill the tea. How long are we talking?
Well, it really depends on a few things, like the type of filler we're talking about, the area where it's injected in, even your individual metabolism, how your body breaks it down.
Right.
But we can kind of break it down.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
So your hyaluronic acid fillers, those tend to last, I'd say, anywhere from 6 to 18 months.
Okay.
Calcium hydroxylapatite fillers, those can last a bit longer, maybe 12 to 24 months.
Wow, so those are even longer lasting.
And then you've got choleolactic acid, which can last for 2 years or even more.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, it's stimulating your own collagen.
Right, so it's not just about instant gratification. It's like improving your skin over time.
Exactly. It's like a long-term investment in your skin.
Yeah.
And then, as we mentioned before, there's polymethyl methacrylate, which is considered permanent.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, those results should last, well, indefinitely.
Wow, so you really do have options from a few months to, like, forever. But I imagine even with the longer lasting fillers, you'd still need touch-ups sometimes, right? To keep things looking, fresh.
You're absolutely right. Most people DO end up getting maintenance sessions, to keep those results going. Think of it like going to the gym. You see the best results with consistent effort, right?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Consistency is key. But, okay, let's say I'm sold on this whole thing. I'm ready to take the plunge. How do I even go about choosing an injector, especially in a city like LA? I mean, it seems overwhelming.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's probably the most important step in this whole process. Finding the right injector can make or break your results, in terms of looking natural and staying safe.
So where do I even start? Is it just Googling best med spa near me?
Well, yeah, you can definitely start with some online research, but don't just stop at a quick search. You want to look for someone who is board certified, meaning they're either, a licensed dermatologist, a plastic surgeon, or at least a certified injector who has had specialized training in, facial aesthetics. Specifically, you want someone who really gets the intricacies of facial anatomy.
Okay, so board certification is non-negotiable. What else?
Experience is key. Look for someone who has a solid track record in facial aesthetics specifically. And don't be afraid to ask, about their training and background.
So not someone who's fresh out of school, but someone who's really got a lot of experience working on faces. What about their work? Like, can I ask to see before and after photos? Is that a thing?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I'd say those before and after pictures are essential. They give you a real sense of the injector's style, their aesthetic approach, and the kind of results they've gotten for other people.
So I can see if their style matches what I'm looking for.
Exactly. You don't want to end up with something that looks, unnatural or overdone.
Yep.
It's your face we're talking about, right? You want to feel good about it.
Totally. So speaking of feeling good about it, what about online reviews? Are those helpful at all, or are they, too unreliable?
I mean, online reviews can be helpful, but you really have to take them with a grain of salt. Look for patterns in the reviews. Are people always praising the injector's skill, their bedside manner, that they create natural-looking results? Or are there red flags about complications or people being unhappy?
So I'm looking for, the general consensus, not just one or two good reviews.
Exactly. And even beyond online stuff, don't underestimate the power of a consultation. Meet the person face-to-face. Talk about your goals. Get a feel for their communication style and how knowledgeable they are.
Okay, so it's like a vibe check. Make sure I feel comfortable with this person.
Precisely. A good injector will listen to you, answer your questions, and really help you figure out the best plan.
Open communication is so important.
Okay, so I'm writing this down. Board certification, experience, before and afters, online reputation, and a good consultation. Got it. But even with all that, there are still risks, right?
With any procedure.
That's true. It's important to remember that while fillers are generally safe, especially in the hands of a qualified professional, there are potential risks and side effects to consider.
So let's talk about that. What could go wrong?
Well, the most common side effects are temporary and pretty mild,
Okay, good.
like swelling, maybe some bruising, redness at the injection site, that kind of thing.
So just the usual stuff.
Yeah, they usually go away in a few days, but there are a few rarer, more serious risks to be aware of.
Well, what's the worst case scenario?
Well, in some cases, you might see some lumps or unevenness, particularly with those hyaluronic acid fillers. But the good news is that can usually be dissolved with an enzyme called hyaluronidase.
Oh, so there's a fix if that happens.
Yeah, but obviously prevention is key, right? Choose a skilled injector.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's always a risk of infection, which is usually tied to improper injection techniques.
Right, so sterile procedures are key.
Absolutely. And then there's a very rare but serious risk called vascular occlusion. That's when a blood vessel gets blocked by the filler and it needs immediate medical attention.
Okay, so if something feels off, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly. Always err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
And, it's worth mentioning that for anyone who's not quite ready for fillers, there are a ton of other non-surgical options in LA.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, there's Botox, Dysport, or Xeomin for wrinkles.
Yeah.
And then there are those PDO threads, which are these special threads that lift sagging skin.
I've heard about those. They're supposed to be good for like a subtle lift. What else?
There's microneedling with PRP, which uses your own blood plasma to stimulate collagen production. And then you've got laser resurfacing, can improve skin texture and tightness.
Wow. Sounds like LA is like a haven for aesthetic treatments.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, that kind of brings us back to this idea of LA as a filler destination. We've talked about the concentration of skilled injectors, the customized treatments, and the huge range of options available.
Okay.
But there's actually another element at play here that we haven't touched on yet.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What is it?
The social aspect.
Mm.
I think there's a certain level of, trendiness surrounding fillers in LA. It's almost become like social currency in some circles.
You know what? You're right. I've noticed that people are a lot more open about getting these procedures done. It's not like this big secret anymore.
That's true. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. You see influencers talking about their filler journeys. Before and after photos are everywhere. Clinics are marketing themselves as the place to go for that perfect look.
It's like this whole culture has developed around aesthetic enhancements. And it's not just celebrities anymore. It's like everyone's trying to look Instagram worthy.
Exactly. And it kind of creates this feedback loop. The more we see it, the more normal, even desirable these treatments become. It's definitely something to think about, both as someone considering these treatments and as a professional administering them.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's great that it's less stigmatized, but it's so important that people are doing it for the right reasons.
Totally agree. It's about finding that balance,
Mm-hmm.
between embracing the advancements we're seeing and promoting responsible use and informed decisions.
So how do we do that? How do we strike that balance?
That's a great question,
Mm-hmm.
and one we can definitely dive into further. But first, let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked about the demand, the expertise, the customized approach, and now this social influence. But I'm curious to get your take on something.
Okay, lay it on me.
What are your thoughts on LA's filler scene being driven, at least in part, by this trendiness? Is it really just about a quest for beauty, or is there something more going on?
That's a really interesting question, and I think it brings up some big ethical considerations about this whole industry. But let's save that for the next part of our deep dive. When we left off, we were talking about how trendy fillers have become in LA.
Yeah, it's definitely become a thing.
So is it all just about, chasing the latest trend, or is there something deeper going on?
Well, it's tricky, right? It's not so simple.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the one hand, there's this pressure to look a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a city like LA, where appearances are, well, kind of everything.
Right. It's like everyone's constantly comparing themselves, fueled by social media and wanting to fit in.
Exactly. And that can be kind of dangerous. It's so important for people to, really think about why they're getting these treatments. Are they doing it for themselves, or are they trying to live up to someone else's idea of beauty?
Such a good point. And I think it shows how much we need to talk more openly and honestly about these things. It's not just tea about how you look. It's also about, the mental and emotional side of it.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that's where finding a really good ethical injector is key. I mean, it's their job to do the procedure right, obviously, but also to have these deeper conversations with their patients.
So it's like they're a counselor as much as a clinician.
Exactly. It's about getting to know what the patient wants, helping them understand what's realistic, and making sure they're making choices that, line up with their values and goals.
Sounds like a tough balance.
It is. And it's something the whole industry needs to think more about, especially as these treatments become more and more common, easier to get.
Totally. We need to move away from this fixing mentality and think more holistically about beauty, you know?
I love that. It's about enhancing, not erasing
Hmm.
what you already have, not trying to fit into some mold.
So what does that mean for the future of fillers? Think we'll see more natural looking results, more focus on, what makes each person unique instead of that cookie cutter look.
I actually think we're already seeing that. People are getting smarter about these choices. They want natural-looking results that highlight their features, not make them look like someone else.
And technology is getting better too. We've got more and more options for really personalized treatments.
Absolutely. DNA analysis, 3D imaging. There are so many tools now to really tailor treatments to each individual.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but
Yeah.
with all this talk about customization and personalization, I do wonder, are we losing sight of something? Like, what about accepting ourselves as we are, embracing those little imperfections, celebrating aging gracefully?
That's a great point. It's
Yeah.
something we all need to keep in mind. We can have all the tools in the world, but they shouldn't define us.
Yeah.
True beauty comes from within, from confidence, self-acceptance, and, just living a life that's true to you.
Perfectly said. And I think that's a great note to end on today. Dermal fillers can be a great way to enhance our natural beauty, but we've got to be smart about it, have realistic expectations, and remember to love ourselves.
I agree completely. It's about finding what makes you feel good, what matches your vision of beauty, and, showing the world the best version of yourself.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into dermal fillers in LA. The booming industry, why it's so popular here, the different types of fillers, the costs, how long they last, and what the risks are.
And we talked about the social and ethical side of things, and even looked ahead to what the future holds for this whole field.
And we did it all without getting too technical or forgetting that, at the end of the day, this is about people.
Exactly. We wanted to give you, the listener, a solid understanding of this whole world, which can be kind of confusing sometimes.
And help you make smart choices about your own aesthetic journey, whatever that looks like for you.
Right.
So, as we wrap things up, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking those questions, and most importantly, remember that true beauty, well, it's about so much more than just looks. It's about feeling good in your own skin, loving the features that make you you, and living a life that feels authentic.
Until next time, take care.